I brought something with me today that I've been really looking forward to trying out. It's one of those setups that makes you, well, it makes me just want to sketch. It was sent to me by Fuumuui. I've used some of their travel brushes before, and I do really like them. I especially like the fact that they have screw-on handles that don't wobble about like some of the push-on ones sometimes do. So before I get too carried away sketching, let me show you exactly what it is. It's a little folio, basically an all-in-one sketching kit with everything you need tucked inside. And straight away I just loved how compact everything was. It came with 300 GSM cotton watercolour paper, and obviously once you've used that you can just refill it with whatever paper you like. And talking of Fuumuui brushes, it has this really nice little dual-ended travel brush, and there's actually a graphite tip on one of the caps, so it doubles as a pencil. And then you've also got a second space for another pen, a fountain pen or whatever you choose to use. Mine also came with this little clip-on metal water pot. I'm not actually sure whether that's standard because a friend of mine bought one and hers didn't include it. This is the largest of 3 sizes, and it has 36 colours in this sort of sliding section, and you use the lid as the mixing area. I had no idea what I'd think of the paper or the paints, but honestly the setup itself is what really appealed to me. I think I've always loved notebook systems and compact travel setups. I think it's what drew me to urban sketching in the first place. So I packed it up and took it out with me to sketch this little medieval church. Built in 1250, this is St Mary's Church in Tattingstone, a quiet little village just south of Ipswich. It was just one of those really calm, warm spring afternoons where you can sit somewhere for an hour and completely lose track of time. I did use the little pencil end to sketch out some rough lines just to make sure that I fitted it all on the page, really. Here I'm tracing my pencil down to work out roughly where my vanishing point is, so I can try to make all the lines on that parallel plane converge at it. I also find that holding the pencil up to sloping lines like the roofline can help me get the angle more accurate. And then I switched to a Sailor Fude de Manon fountain pen, so that's a pen with a bent nib, 40-degree bent nib, with platinum carbon water-resistant ink. I often get asked about the ink I use. One of the reasons I like platinum carbon ink is that it's water-resistant, so once it's dry I can paint watercolour over the top without the lines smudging everywhere. But it's also suitable for fountain pens, and if you're new to inks, those are actually 2 really important things to look out for. Some waterproof inks aren't fountain pen friendly and can clog your pen or even damage it if you're not careful. I've been using this ink in pretty much all of my pens for a few years now, and it's been absolutely fine. The only slight issues I've had were with a couple of Lamy Safari pens that had been sitting around unused for quite a while. Another brand people often recommend is Noodler's. I haven't tried it myself yet, but I think it's much more widely available in America than it is here in the UK. I'm not adding in all the bricks or stones, but just a few, like on the corners, just to give it a bit of texture. The Fude nib makes blacking in things like these windows so much easier. I'm also using the ink pen to darken in some of those really shadowed areas. And the difference in line width that you get naturally with the Fude nib just by tilting your hand as you move it around the page makes it ideal for doing things like foliage because it gives you sort of a bit more of an organic randomness. So that's the ink work done. Now I'm going to try these paints. I've heard mixed reviews about these paints, so I genuinely wasn't sure what to expect, but I actually really liked them. I found them really creamy and much more vibrant than I was expecting. I tend to use artist grade paints generally, but I don't really think people are buying something like this to paint commissioned gallery pieces with. For me, something like this is about the convenience and fun, and I think this has both of those in bucket loads. I had the churchyard completely to myself, just me and the birds singing away. It was actually really nice because I know sketching in public can feel a bit intimidating sometimes, especially if you're new to it. So if you're lucky enough to have somewhere quiet like this nearby, it's a really good opportunity to start venturing out and building up a little bit of confidence. And I think a little compact kit like this probably makes it feel even easier as well because it's so inconspicuous. Like I mentioned earlier, I've always been a bit obsessed with notebook systems and compact little sketch kits. And before this arrived, I actually tried to make my own version using an old leather Filofax from the 1990s. I bought some little Ziploc inserts for it, a tiny 3D printed travel palette that was about the size of a credit card. And I even bought a 6-hole punch so I could cut my own watercolour paper and refill it myself. The only problem was it just wasn't quite wide enough, so I never really used it. So I was actually really pleased to get one of these, and the handy thing is that the hole punch I bought can now be used to refill this one when the paper runs out. Because I must admit, I'm definitely one of those people who hoards sketchbooks and saves them for special occasions. So knowing I can refill this so easily means I'm much less precious about actually using it. I even took it with me to kill time when I was waiting for a hospital appointment last week. It was too cold to get out of the car, so I just sketched the street in front of me. One thing I probably would recommend with a set like this, though, is doing yourself a little swatch chart. I'm not always the most diligent when it comes to doing colour charts, but I think it's really helpful with a set like this, especially when it's a brand you're not familiar with. Some of the colours behaved slightly differently to what I expected. The Payne's Grey, for example, looked quite different to the Payne's Grey that I'm used to using. It actually looked quite brown by comparison. I think in future I'd probably use the ivory black mixed with some of the indigo. It's just personal preference, though, and what you're used to, I suppose. I definitely wouldn't claim to be a world expert on watercolour paints. I just know which brands and colours I personally enjoy using, but I genuinely liked painting with these. I don't know what you think, but I think those colours are really vibrant and lovely. Well, I hope that's been useful, and if you were thinking of buying one of these, that perhaps it's helped you make a decision. I'll put a link to the product in the description and also the pen and the ink that I was using. And as always, thanks very much for watching and happy sketching.